Welcome everyone. In this video I'm going to go through and discuss the classes, weapons and perks available in Space Marine 2's co-op. I was actually very pleasantly surprised with how much depth there is to this, so I thought I'd bust this news wide open with a deep dive into just how many ways you can serve the Emperor in Space Marine 2. Get an appletini or whatever it is you need to take the edge off, and enjoy. So, firstly, in Space Marine 2 there is a 3-player co-op mode. You play missions that seem to take place concurrently with the main campaign. You and 2 other players, or bots, form a squad, with no duplicate classes allowed within the squad. There are 6 classes, so there's plenty of room for mixing and matching with you and your friends. So let's not waste any time, praise the machine spirit, and start going through them. Tactical is the first class, essentially your classic tactical Space Marine. A double hard bastard with a wide array of weapon options. Before we touch in on that very vast array of weapons, the tactical class has the Auspex Scan ability, an ability that scans and reveals enemies in an area, and when they are detected and outlined, they become more vulnerable and take more damage. Starting with the primary weapon, TAC Marines can have an auto bolt rifle, a standard bolt rifle, a heavy bolt rifle, a stalker bolt rifle, a bolt carbine, a plasma incinerator, and a melter rifle. Sadly, not all at once. Every gun available seems to have its own progression tree, allowing for the unlocking of not only alternate versions of the gun with unique stats such as varying rates of fire, reload speeds, range and different mag sizes, but also perks allowing you to further customize a build. There seem to be some fairly nice looking perks with things like HP regen after killing X amount of enemies if your HP is below 30% for example. There are also standard things you'd expect to see on a gun perk, such as increased reload speed or extra enemy penetration. So your bolt around would travel through 2 pieces of Tyranid scum before exploding instead of 1. As if all the aforementioned bolter variants wasn't enough, the TAC Marine class also gets a bolt pistol as a secondary and a chainsword. Goodness me, isn't the Emperor generous in his benevolence? Perks seem to be split into a few categories. Core perks with 9 choices, a wide array of things that could play into lots of different playstyles, team perks that give your entire squad a buff, gear perks which on the TAC Marine all enhance his Auspex Scan ability, and finally a signature perk. The TAC Marine has, for example, Signal Jammer, an augment for the Auspex Scan ability that prevents enemies from calling reinforcements, Radiating Impact, a perk that adds a significant AoE damage when doing a melee finisher, and finally Marked for Death, giving you instant kills on headshots on Majoris or Extremis, these are presumably tiers of enemies, when they are marked by Auspex Scan. It seems that in each row of perks, you'll only be able to select 1 perk. So 3 core perks, 1 team perk, 3 gear perks, and 1 final signature perk. I think there's going to be a lot of theory crafting when it comes to the perks, different builds that you can do, different setups, and trying to create some insane combos so that your abilities and perks overlap and make your squad feel invincible in the face of a sea of Tyranids. Assault is the second class we're going to look at, this time with no primary weapon available, but instead glorious melee weapons taking centre stage. The classic chainsword is of course on offer, as well as a thunder hammer and a power fist. All as before, with variants and perks available to tweak and refine your marine. To complement your Xeno thwacking, you can opt for a bolt pistol or a heavy bolt pistol. The ability of the assault class is a lovely jump pack, allowing you to use enhanced dashes to leap into melee, as well as powerful jumps and leaps into the sky, allowing you to crash down with righteous fury onto the Xeno scum below. As you would expect, the perks for assault revolve around movement and melee really. Faster cooldowns on your jetpack, bonus damage on dodges, that kind of thing. The signature perks start with ample ammunition. Any use of your jump pack reloads your ranged weapon. Pretty straightforward. Ascension is next, a perk that deals AoE damage to enemies around you as you take flight with your jetpack. And finally, Commitment. Perfectly timed dodges using the jetpack dash restores the jump pack ability charge. Now I can see that final perk being very cool in the right hands. Having an assault player constantly leaping about, smashing down and dishing out glorious justice. Vanguard, the next class, seems more like a specialised TAC Marine, equipped with a grapnel launcher ability that hooks into an enemy and causes you to leap forward with a diving kick. You can kill a termagant in a second, kick its face off. Primary weapons are a bit more limited than TAC Marines. The Instigator and Oculus bolt carbines seem to both come with scopes, meaning perhaps slightly more distant ranged engagements and shots. But then there is also the Melter Rifle, which is basically an energy shotgun that fires liquid hot magma into the face of whatever is at the other end of the barrel. Secondary wise, it's the humble bolt pistol for you, boy, and of course a chainsword, or perhaps maybe the more unique combat knife. A high-speed dueling weapon with faster attack speed and damage than the chainsword, but less cleaving potential. The core perks seem to be a mix of parry or dodge buffs and some lovely team perks that enable, for example, all squad members to restore 15% charge on abilities by performing finishes. Gear perks, as with the other two classes, have a clear focus on changing or augmenting the class ability, in this case the grapnel launcher. Finally, the signature perks, starting with tactical prowess, making your grapnel launcher cooldown reset if you finish an enemy with the diving kick. Next, Emperor's Blessing gives you survivability, restoring all armor charges instead of being incapacitated when taking lethal damage. And finally, Adrenaline Rush, giving you 1% HP regen when melee killing Majoris or higher tiered enemies. It seems as though Vanguard are meant to be right in the thick of it, zipping forward with the grapnel launcher and slicing through enemies like a spice weasel through a biryani. Bulwark is the final melee focused class. Permanently equipped with a storm shield, they can hold parry and keep the shield raised and auto-deflect light attacks. The war gear for this class isn't too broad. A bolt pistol or plasma pistol for the secondary, and a chainsword, power fist or power sword for your main melee banger. Bulwark is the only class that gets the power sword, so I'm sure we'll see lots of players utilising that. The Bulwark ability lets you put down a flag, which pulses in an AoE and restores shield charge for any allies stood close enough. Very useful for big swarm moments and generally keeping your squad alive. The core perks seem to revolve around durability and being a triple hard bastard. The team perks follow suit, with 3 perks that all in some way make your squad harder to kill or last longer in the downed state. Gear perks wise, it's all about the shield, bashing with the shield and also giving the banner ability some AoE damage or further buffs to teammates. Finally, the signature perks, well, they've got a bit of variation. The first, Emergency Countermeasure, essentially grants you a grenade drop COD perk when your armour breaks. Defensive Mastery, the next perk, allows for instant incapacitation of Majoris or Extremist level enemies when landing a perfectly timed parry, enabling them then, I guess, to be instantly executed. Armoured Advance, the final perk, makes it so that you won't be staggered or knocked back when taking heavy hits if you have armour remaining. 3 perks there that could really complement a build in quite different ways. Despite its lack of weapon variety, I think Bulwark seems like a class with lots of different ways to play and focus your gameplay utilising the perks. Sniper comes with, believe it or not, an array of sniper rifles. A Stalker bolt rifle, a bolt sniper rifle, a bolt carbine, and finally a las fusil. Basically an energy based sniper that does high damage, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the only weapon I've seen so far with a 10 damage value. Secondary and melee is limited to a humble bolt pistol and combat knife combo. Despite my very public and well-known adverse feelings towards snipers in video games, the ability of the sniper class could provide them with a useful team play mechanic. Camo Cloak renders your marine invisible and concealed from enemy until your next attack, presumably meaning you can utilise this to get guaranteed revives on downed teammates. The perks seem to confirm my suspicions, with one of the core perks giving you 30% faster revive speeds, as well as the standard collection of damage increase buffs. Team perks mainly offer increased damage and bonuses for your teammates getting headshots, and the gear perks for sniper all revolve around the camo cloak, buffing it in various ways. One notable perk essentially gives you a rogue style backstab with a melee attack that breaks the camo cloak, dealing 100% more damage. The first signature perk for sniper gives you free camo cloak activations on perfectly timed dodges, with only a 15-second cooldown on that. So I could see this being a very cool perk rolled into some corresponding gear perks. Next, the emergency override perk gives you protection from lethal damage, instead activating your camo cloak and giving you 5 seconds of invulnerability. Pattern of Excellence, the final perk, makes performing 4 consecutive headshots restore 1 equipment charge. Now, does that mean grenades or Medicae kits or both? Either way, if you want to build a very high damage character that is also quite a team player, Sniper could fit the bill. Heavy is the last class. Clad in thick Gravis armour, the Heavy class is the classic big guns. You have the choice of a Heavy Bolter, a Heavy Plasma Incinerator, or a Multi-Melter. Big guns for a big bloke. If those guns run out of ammo due to extreme Xeno extermination, a Plasma Pistol or Bolt Pistol secondary is also available, with no option of a melee weapon. Just end your enemies by beating them to death with your primary. Iron Halo, the ability for the Heavy class, creates a kind of bubble shield, blocking all ranged damage. I'm sure this will come in handy for any sections where there are like a myriad of warriors with venom cannons or something like that. The core perks are quite varied really, a few offering ways to replenish ammo, damage increases from weapon overheating, and one giving buffs to teammates despite it not being in the team category. Team perks seem fine but a little lackluster. Teammates take less range damage, have more ammo capacity, or revive on full health. Actually, the last one is quite nice. As for the gear perks, it's mainly Iron Halo tweaks and buffs, but there are one or two that do offer buffs to teammates. So far, it seems Heavy is actually a really great class for just adding flat passive buffs to your squad. Finally, looking at the signature perks, offensive capability, Iron Halo deals damage over time to enemies within 5 meters. Kind of like a giant bug zapper for termagants nipping at your heels. Next, Coolant Reserve seems like a last stand kind of jobby. If both of your squad members are incapacitated, your primary weapon will not overheat. The last signature perk cements what I said just now about Heavy being seemingly a great team play class. Conversion Field gives all squad members within 100 meters of you 50% faster ability recharge whilst Iron Halo is active. And so that is all the classes now. Overall, I think there's quite a good amount of variation in playstyle and weaponry between the 6. Remember, you can't have duplicates in any squad, so I think we'll see some really nice combos within the various gameplay styles on offer. Could you potentially do a really melee focused build, or perhaps a really ranged focus? I think it's going to be best to have a mix. Now, finally, before I wrap up the video, let's have a look at the cosmetic customization, because it wouldn't be 40k if you couldn't paint your little soldiers. The armour customization is entirely cosmetic and seems to offer no gameplay changes. I'm fine with that though, a Space Marine is a Space Marine. They're all mega hard supermen. There are sets of armour that can be unlocked by completing various challenges, such as complete 35 missions in operation mode. These then unlock a set of pieces that you can then use to create a custom loadout, mixing and matching parts to make your perfect dream Marine. Under Astartes chapters, you can unlock different colour schemes for the various Space Marine chapters. Dark Angels, Blood Angels, Imperial Fists, all the classic chapters are there, as well as some unknown foundings. Chapters that exist in the lore, but don't have fully fleshed out rules within the tabletop board game. There is also a heretical tab, which I considered cutting out of the video for fear of being expunged by the Grey Knights. But I think it's purely for customising a Chaos Warrior within the PvP mode, which we didn't have access to in this build. I'm 99% sure you can't use the Chaos colour schemes for the co-op mode. Hopefully you've enjoyed going through all the classes with me. It's not long to wait now until we can all feast our grubby little eyes and hands all over Space Marine 2. Perhaps theory crafting your classes with the information in this video will tide you over until release day. Leave me a comment praising the Emperor of Mankind or the Omnissiah, like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon for more Space Marine 2 on Twitch or here on the YouTubes. Bye!